All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Sippin, episode 2, a place where we get to know somebody over a drink. Kind of messed that up a little bit, but you know what? We're just gonna roll with it because this isn't really all that professional. Um, so this is gonna be another episode of getting to know me a little bit more, and it's kind of gonna be a shorter story or a shorter episode. The reason why I say story is because how often have you heard the question or the phrase, I'm sorry, everything has a story? And when you really think about it, it's true. Everything does have a story, especially in the spirit world. But how often do you get to tell your story? And not really too often, Not many people are willing to listen. But today I'm going to take the time to talk about my story and how actually I got on the spirits journey, mainly, whiskey, and how I got started. I feel like I got started in a bit of an orthodox way. You'll find out why in a little bit. But today, the drink that we are going to be sharing together, or at least I'm going to be sharing with you, I'm hoping you're having a glass with me as you're listening or watching this, whatever it is you might be doing. But I'm not going to say the first part because I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher the name, but I think, believe so, Brew Octomore or Octomar, whatever you want to say. I have the 11.1, and this is a very special bottle for me. You'll find out why in a little bit. So I also have it right here just because I didn't want to look foolish trying to pop that open. So, my whiskey journey started about maybe a little under 10 years ago. And believe it or not, I actually got into whiskeys because of my little brother. Now, just like everybody else, I did do some underage drinking. I don't condone it, but let's be real here. We all know we do it, or, know people who have done it. And when it came to whiskey, like, even like early ages of 21, it was, the typical Jack and Coke or whiskey Coke, Jack shots, or typical, taking shots of Patron, stuff like that. So, I was just drinking to get somewhere and never really thought about anything else. And actually, I got into craft beer for a while. I was heavy on the IPAs, heavy on the sours. Not too much of a stouts guy, but I would drink them. I do enjoy reds and stuff like that. From back then, my favorite beers till this day are Two Hearted Ale. I forgot the brewery name, and Citrus Showers from Noble Ale Works out there in Anaheim. That was back then. They're not the same now. If I were to try them again, but and since then, people have put me onto a lot better beers, and I do respect, the whole Pliny the Elder and all that stuff, the OG stuff, but there's a lot better stuff out there now. And what was it? How this happened? I remember very specifically. It was one drink. It wasn't whiskey. Well, it was whiskey based, but it wasn't a straight whiskey. Where me, my brother, my sister, basically my family went out drinking, and we got invited to go to some place in California, Venture Hotel or something like that. We ended up drinking with this guy, and it was my first time having a Manhattan and my first time smoking a cigar. But I remember very vividly the first time I took a sip of that Manhattan, and I was blown away. I was like, "Wow, this is great." Da 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 da. You know, and I describe it as a mantini. It's a very manly martini, especially the glass it came in. It came in a martini glass, but I thought it was great. And I looked at my little brother. I was like, "Did you know that there's stuff that tastes this great?" He looked at me and he was kind of like, "Yeah," but it wasn't that's what kickstarted everything. From that day on, like, I got into whiskeys, and it was my little brother who started bringing whiskeys to me. Um, the way I say, like, my whiskey journey kinda got was a little bit unorthodox was because I got into scotches first. You know, I've had uh, Glenmorangie, something like that. You know, I've tried Monkey Shoulder, Glenlivet, Glenfiddich. Um, then I started getting into, like, smokier things. Like, I've tried smokier things, Lagavulin, Oban, stuff like that. And but the reason why this is and they were all good, but the reason why this is, like, the most memorable and cherishable bottle for me is it's another very vivid memory, you know? I believe we went to go celebrate my sister's birthday down there in Fullerton, California. We went to some restaurant in the cellar, it's a great restaurant. If you're looking to try a bunch of whiskeys and try a bunch of great cocktails, go check them out. Fantastic bartenders. And I got a whiskey flight. So it was the Octomore 8.1, 2, and 3. I still need to buy those bottles specifically for this memory. If I could ever find them, if you know anybody, please let me know. Um, I would gladly pay the price for them just to have for my memory's sake. Um, and yeah, that was the first real whiskey that left an impact on me. Uh, I drank my first sip. I drank it a little fast, and even some people around me like, "Hey, what are you doing? No, sip slower," stuff like that. Also, apologize that this isn't a Glencairn. I guess whiskey snobs. I know Glencairn's the way to be, but mine kind of broke. So get over it. Um, but that one really stuck with me. I'm gonna actually take a little sip here. It's still so good. But so the reason why this one stuck so well with me is just because it's so. I know people hate the term smooth, but there's no burn on the back, and the way I can describe it's very heartwarming, especially on a cold day. I love smoky scotches. I love Isla scotches. I love something that just leaves like somebody lit a campfire in your mouth. And as it warms up your mouth, it starts to warm up the throat and it starts to warm up right here. And it felt like home. And then from there, just things just took off. I started getting more into scotches, trying a bunch of different things. And then, you know, and then it mixed in with craft beers. And then I started going back, you know, whiskey, craft beer, whiskey, craft beer, whiskey, craft beer. And it was never really like, I never really got into the Woodfords. What's another thing? The Buffalo Trace that people, suggest that if you're trying to get into whiskey or bourbon or whatever it is, that those are the best beginner whiskeys. It went from Scotch to Japanese whiskey. So there's the Centauri. I did try the Toki. I'm not a fan of it now. I was a fan of it back then. The Hibikis, the Yamazaki, Hakushu, Nika. The coffee malt's still one of the best things out there. I love that whiskey. I don't care what anybody says. That's a great whiskey. It doesn't taste like coffee. I can go into that right now, but I'm not going to. And then for a while, and for as long as I can remember, that went on for like a year or two. Just trying different whiskeys, trying different beers, trying and getting really sinking my teeth into things, but not too much. Like I didn't really take the time to learn about the distilling process, why stuff tastes certain ways, or I really didn't really get into tasting notes. Just like trying different things, and if I liked it, I liked it, and that's is what it is. I wasn't the type of person, and I'm still not the type of person to describe how something tastes to try to use it as a selling point. Um, And then I took a long break for a while. Like I wasn't drinking, I wasn't really doing anything. I was just living my life. And maybe fast forward to maybe 2 years ago, maybe a little under, maybe a little bit over. I met this dude. His name's Gary, and we worked together and stuff like that. And I remember hearing him talking about whiskeys and stuff like that, and he wanted to get into it. And that's really where things started taking off again. I was like, "Hey, dude, like I have a bunch of whiskeys, like still left over from before. Bad to keep them that long, but um, and I did buy some here and there, but he we started trying stuff, and like I tried putting him onto like everything that I was trying. Um, and we went out one day, and then boom, things took off again. You know, that's when the whole bourbon thing came into play and stuff like that. But at that moment, it was like I bought a bottle, we tried it, we drank it down, and then he bought a bottle, he brought it, we drank it down, stuff like that. We gave our opinions on it, da 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 da. And, you know, it was just the start of not only a beautiful friendship, but like a beautiful journey. That's really when this journey started, like two months ago. And we were sitting here talking one day and was like, you know what? Let's host a whiskey tasting. And, you know, not the best thing. It's not like we were doing like Eagle Rare or not Eagle Rare, but like the Pappies and the $1,000 bottles, which I know I have met people who do bottle sharing with that expensive sort of things, but it's just everyday 95 workers. But we did set out to, make a limit that you have to spend like $60 on a bottle. 'Cause it's usually around that price range that people start getting iffy and like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna spend that much. What if I don't like it? Da, 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 da. And it was cool. And it was a it was a beautiful thing. It's like the one thing like I've always liked about whiskeys and when I first got into them is you can just easy conversation starter. I've talked to people behind the desk or store owners, people behind the counters when they're very knowledgeable and they can recommend things and you just sit there and have a conversation. Oh, it's great. It's fucking fantastic. And that's kind of what I wanted to show him too, because I have experienced it and I've always loved it. And the f- I remember when we were doing shopping for this whiskey tasting, uh, we went to a liquor store because we went together shopping for bottles and stuff like that, and trying to figure out what we wanted to bring and stuff like that. And we went to a liquor store, and I kind of got mad because I asked for a bottle, and the guy had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. And he's like, "What? Why did that bother you?" I'm like, "Cause like I like having conversations with the guy behind the counter, um, who knows what they're talking about. That way I could learn, we could have a conversation, and next thing you know, 25, 30 minutes will by like that." So, I took him to a liquor store that I shopped at, and I like the guy behind the counter, and he experienced that for the first time, and it was great. It was great. Like, seeing somebody enjoy what I enjoy is one of the greatest things I like about whiskey. But anyways, we get, to this first whiskey tasting. It was my first time hanging out with a bunch of people that I've never hung out with before. Basically, a lot of the people who were invited were because of this guy, Gary. I really didn't talk to much people at work. And what full disclosure, I ended up with my head in the toilet that day because that was poorly planned on my part. But beforehand, it was cool, you know, having a drink with everybody, listening to everybody's story about their bottle because that was something that we wanted to do. is look up a fun fact about the bottle that we were buying, and hearing everybody's little story about their bottle, why they bought it, what interests them, hearing everybody talk about the whiskey, what they like about it, what they don't like about it, seeing how your tasting profiles compared to other people. Just great conversations. The fights were on. We were watching boxing, whatever. I don't remember much of it anyway. Fights were on, smoking cigars, and man, that was like one of the best days for me, personally. But even after that, like that got me wanting to really try more whiskeys, trying to develop a sense in, oh, this tastes like cherry, this tastes like vanilla, this tastes like that. But really, that's what really kickstarted looking into histories of bottles, or how it's made in single barrels, cast strengths, and this and that, store picks. I didn't know any of that before until we did the first whiskey tasting. And since then, I've bought in quite a bit of bottles. Kind of went a little bit overboard sometimes, but do I regret it? No. Um, you know, one of my favorite things to do is every time I go to a restaurant is to actually try something that I've never had before, just because why not? I'm not the type of person. Well, I'm not actually the type of person when it comes to whiskey or tequila, whatever. Um, if I've bought in it, I'm usually not going to buy it again, just because it takes me so long to drink down a bottle. There's no point for me to have a second. But I want to keep my palate growing and expanding and stuff like that. But just so good. It's just so warm and inviting. I know a lot of people don't like Isla scotches and the smoky taste or whatever, but for me, that's just one of the greatest feelings ever. How you don't like the warmness. Actually, side note here, one of my favorite drinks, cocktails. Don't know the name of it. I just know it was at the cellar. It had something that was basically lemonade, and it had the smokiness to it on the back end. Like it drank and tasted exactly like homemade lemonade would, but then you got that real nice smoke and it just lifted to the top of your mouth. It just felt like I was out in the wilderness and just making lemonade and putting it over a fire and just letting it smoke out. And oh man, it was the most beautiful thing ever. But, you know, and then, I started actually, I've developed so many friendships because of whiskeys. I've had so many fantastic conversations with strangers because of whiskey. And then, tequila, but that's a whole nother thing that we'll get into on a whole nother day. Uh, but for the record, the first tequila that somebody tried to get me into saying like, oh, it was good after like me only knowing Patron, yeah, that first one was terrible. Never again. But yeah, no, just everything about it, dude. Is just from the memories that you can have with yourself, just sitting outside and throwing on whatever type of music you want to, and just getting lost while having a drink, or a buddy comes over and next thing you know, you're talking 2 hours over a drink, smoking a cigar, and, or just a group of friends. You guys, everybody brings something, like have your own whiskey tastings, and everybody just brings something different and getting to know each other. Maybe they could invite somebody you don't know, you invite somebody they don't know, and then, more friendships develop, groups grow bigger, relationships expand, and then your everything else expands. It's a wonderful thing, man. It's a wonderful thing, you know? And for me, like, the reason why I love this so much is just because 'cause I've never been really good with talking to people. I'm terrible at small talk. I'll be the first one to admit that. I'm terrible at small talk. But and it sounds like an alcoholic thing to say, but I've developed a lot of friendships because of whiskey. But, am I drinking every day? No. Am I drinking every weekend? No. I'll be honest with you. No, like, but every time I've had the opportunity to get to know somebody, it has been over a drink. And I've developed some of the greatest friendships over a drink. You know, me and my wife do it. Um, Before the baby was born, we actually used to sit outside and on the patio at the end of our work week and have a drink, and that was our little thing. That was our own little version of getting to know each other over a drink and stuff like that. We just talk about our work week and what we want to accomplish and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know. For me, it's just, I feel like you let yourself go and forget about everything else, but you get lost in conversation or get lost in yourself. It's just a great thing, you know. But since that first whiskey tasting, we've had another one, which went a lot better for me because I didn't end up with my face in the toilet. But, new people came, new friendships came, and it's great. And then, as of current, planning one coming up in January. That one should be great. Um, Fun little thing is, we're doing something to where we have to bring a whiskey from a different state, so everybody has a different state. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most is because basically everybody's buying something that they've never once in their wildest dreams would have thought of buying. But this is kind of forcing everybody to do that. And I'm excited for that. I really am. I'm really excited to see what the States has to offer when it comes to whiskey. But yeah, man, I mean, you know, for me, if you're not a whiskey person, maybe you might be a tequila person, vodka, craft beer, whatever. Or it doesn't even have to be spirits. Find something that, if you could find something that just will also help bring others around you and you could develop friendships and open up a whole new world to yourself, I can guarantee your life's gonna be a lot better. Mine is. I but that's just me. Um, I guess winding down to this, I know this is a short one, but this was always gonna be a short one. I don't wanna there's a lot of things I can get into, but that I'm just not going to. But, let me just finish this off. I'm going to go to sleep with a nice warm heart, but TLDR, too long, don't read. Whiskey's fantastic. It opened up a whole new world for me. It opened up whole new friendships for me. And, you know, it's great. I look forward to trying more, meeting more people, having more wonderful conversations with people. And if you're somebody that we've never hung out before and shared a drink together, And if you're watching this, listening to this, whatever it is that you're doing, and you wanna have a drink and maybe have a conversation, maybe we can develop a bond together, please let me know. I would love to do so. It's one of my favorite things to do is getting to know somebody over a drink. This is why I started this to better get to know somebody, even if it's family, friends, complete strangers. It's a beautiful thing. And that will wrap this one up. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.